Hello, friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado. It's Friday afternoon. I hope you're enjoying your day. I'm sure you're looking forward to the weekend. I know I am. I have my Friday lemonade going on here with lots of ice. Tastes good, nice and chilled. I'm sure you're probably ready to get your lemonade too. So I'm just going to do a quick one here. Sometimes it's easy to take for granted some of the questions that people have when they have an injury at work or they have an illness that's as a result of exposure at work. And, for those of us who've been in the business for a very long time, it's easy to take that for granted and expect that somebody's just going to know. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with a claim, but there's a lot of things as well that can go right. And I think the more you know about a typical claim, you can have a better understanding of what's to come, and maybe some of the questions to ask so that you can keep things on the right track. So today I'm going to talk about a typical claim. Now, most of you know there's nothing typical about a claim with the WSIB, but I'm going to try and break it down. And I break it down into 4 sections. The first one is the entitlement section. And what I mean by entitlement is the WSIB accepting an injury or illness as being work-related. Something as straightforward as a slip and fall. You report it, yes, it was at work, somebody saw it, blah, blah, blah. No problem, straightforward. Or something that can be a little bit more complex, such as an injury or a disablement, something that takes place over a period of time. If you're working on a line, for example, moving parts and that kind of stuff, and have an injury that develops over a period of time. But in any event, that first part would be what I call the entitlement phase. And so the WSIB looks at all the information, the Form 6, which is your accident report, the Form 7, which is the employer report, and the Form 8, which is your doctor's report. The Form 7 is completed by your employer, and they have 3 days according to the law to give you a copy of that Form 7 and submit it to the WSIB. Otherwise, there could be some penalties. So then you have an eligibility adjudicator at the WSIB who's going to review the information, maybe make some inquiries, and then make a determination as to whether the claim is going to be accepted. So then we move on to the next phase, which is the income replacement phase. And income replacement today in a claim that takes place today or any time after January 1st, 1998, you're entitled to receive loss of earnings benefits. And that money is intended to pay you for the time that you require to be off work, for treatment, and so on. It can get a little bit more complicated than that, but I'm going to try and keep things simple. It also means for people who were injured between January 1st, 1990 and December 31st, 1997, they would receive at the time what was called Section 37 2B benefits or a supplement. But essentially that was to pay for your initial time off work. So then the WSIB has various policies as to how they calculate your benefits. And there's a lot of factors that can be taken into consideration, but the most straightforward one is your employer submits your earnings information on that accident report, the Form 7, the frequency of your pay, if you earn bonuses, regular overtime or shift premium, or other factors that they can take into consideration to calculate your loss of earnings benefits. Initially, you get paid the first 12 weeks, what they call the short-term calculation. And after the first 12 weeks, they can do a recalculation. They call it a long-term calculation, where they can take into consideration other factors in order to calculate your earnings in a way that is more representative of your income over the course of a year or up to 18 months before your injury. The loss of earnings benefit under Bill 99, so for claims after January 1st, 1998, can be reviewed once per year. And after 76 months, they do what they refer to, or the legislation refers to, as the final loss of earnings review. And that then gets locked in until you're 65. So I'm simplifying things just for those of you who just basically want a simple, basic understanding of how things work. From there, what I call the third phase is the WSIB looks at whether or not your injury or disease is going to result in a permanent impairment. So they look at all of the medical that's been submitted to the file, to the claim file. They review that information, and then they make a determination as to maximum medical recovery, MMR. And basically what that means is that they have determined in their infinite wisdom, based on all of the medical information that they've chosen to accept. I'm being a little facetious here on this one. But then they will determine whether or not your condition has reached a stage where it's going to recover as much as it can. Now, there's always room for improvement, but they make that determination so that they can then determine whether or not you're left with any permanent restrictions. If you're left with permanent restrictions, then the WSIB will have you assessed for a non-economic loss award. And that award is intended to pay for pain and suffering as a result of your injury. It has nothing to do with your income. In pre-1990 claims, it was called a pension or a permanent disability award, and it did have to do with your income because it was based on a percentage of what your income was, and you would receive that percentage for your lifetime. So once you get assessed for that non-economic loss award, there's a percentage that's assessed, and that percentage pretty much represents your level of disability or the level of impairment that your injury has had on your person. And at that point, then they look at what I call the fourth stage of your claim. And that is, and it can be quite expansive and involved, because that represents what you're able to do in terms of work, in terms of returning to, whether it be your pre-injury job with your pre-injury employer, or an accommodated position with your pre-injury employer. That accommodated position would have to be provided on a permanent basis to accommodate those permanent restrictions, or whether the WSIB would have to become involved and provide work reintegration services. And work reintegration services can involve a number of things, from just some basic upgrading, taking some basic courses, to full-on training in a different career. And that involves some ongoing support on the part of the Workplace Safety and Insurance Board while you were involved in that program, which is not finite or not infinite. It is finite, and there is a time that is allocated to it because they don't want to pay you forever and ever and then some. So those are the 4 stages of a typical claim. Providing the claim or providing you require the full extent of the benefits that in most cases would be provided to an injured worker. When dealing with catastrophic type injuries, which is handled through the serious injury program, which is a different part of the WSIB and how those types of injuries are handled, then there are much more benefits and services provided under that program. I'm not going to get into that in this video, but this basically just covers a typical claim, providing you go to the full extent of requiring work reintegration services to either become reemployed with your employer or in a new career altogether. So just to recap, the first part is the entitlement phase, which is the WSIB deciding whether or not to accept the claim or illness. The second one is claim or income replacement, how you're going to survive financially while you require treatment and you're unable to return to work. The third one is the permanent impairment, determining whether or not your claim or your injury or illness is going to have a permanent effect on you. And the last one being the return to work phase, whether it be with your employer or a new employer. So I hope that provides you a little bit of an understanding of how this system is supposed to work in its best form. And if you're watching this video, you probably know that it doesn't. But I just wanted to give you a basic understanding of how things can work. And so as usual, if you have any questions whatsoever about your claim, you can always email me at joemachado@wsibsettlements.com, or you can visit WSIBsettlements.com, which is my company. We offer a series of programs and tools to help injured workers essentially fight for their benefits and get the most out of their claims. And so I'm sure we'll be able to help you in some way. So today, I'd like to leave you with today's Mr. Happy or Mr. Smiley tip. And that is, and it may seem obvious, but just bear with me because these tips are important and I come up with them based on over 30 years of experience and things that I see that could help injured workers improve the management of their claims. And so this one is very simple. Every time that your doctor submits medical on your behalf relating to your injury, always make sure that you get a copy for your records. And you're also able to see whether or not there are any inconsistencies so you can address them right away. Because if you don't see that information, and it's not that your doctor is intending on providing information that is not consistent, so don't get me wrong, but it's important that you understand and you know what's going on in your claim so that if there are any errors, you can fix them and you're not taken by surprise, and it doesn't have an adverse effect in your claim and you don't know about it until much later. All right, friends. So for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. I welcome you to become a subscriber. It's free, and all the information that is provided on this channel doesn't cost you anything. Click the notification bell and you get notified every time I come out with a new video. I do on average about 3 videos a week, and I talk about a wide range of issues from pre-1990 claims right up until recent legislation. And I enjoy doing these videos, and there's far more topics and content that I'm going to continue to provide to my subscribers. As always, thank you for sharing my videos. I appreciate that, and it's helping me to build the channel. And until the next time, as always, take care.